Conventional thinking may hold that a lot of bright sun is the prescription for a happy garden.
But shade gardens can provide a lot of beauty and satisfaction, although you may have to retrain your brain to figure out how to make shade a part of your garden plan. Gavir is back this morning with garden expert Derek Thomas. Gavir.
Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Allison. Hey, we're expecting sunshine today, which is wonderful. But you know what? Those shade gardens can really be pretty, and Derek is here to tell us how we can start thinking about our own shade garden. Hey, Derek.
How are you, Gavir?
You know, this time of year, people are not thinking about planning ahead. They're thinking about shoveling snow.
Yeah.
But you say now's the time to really start planning.
You have to start planning for your garden. And, you know, one of the things that people always ask about in the height of summer is a good shade garden. Because, you know, when it's 95 degrees plus outside, people want to look for that shade. And, you know, shade gardens, they're specific plants, and you have to do some planning and some proper planning in advance now will get things going for the summer. You know.
So in the middle of June is not the right time to be thinking about it. You need to be thinking months ahead of time.
You have to think months ahead of time, you know, and there's some tough questions that you have to ask yourself when you're planning that shade garden. You know, you need to think about the site, and you need to do a site survey, and you need to, you know, ask yourself the questions. Is this, you know, just because there's no sun in a site, say in early March, the trajectory of the sun is going to change come June. And you could be planting a plant like this colocasia, which loves, you know, tropicals have become the rave.
Right.
And a plant like this is a shade plant. If you put it in full sun in your outdoor tropical garden, it's going to fry.
Well, like hostas, because I know when we did the renovation at the house, I ended up moving some hostas. They did great. I thought it was perfect. And all of a sudden I realized, early spring. Then summer rolled around and they were frying.
Right. And, you know, so you have to think about that. The other thing that you have to ask yourself is the site, you know, shade plants, just by their nature, you're going to be putting them underneath a shade tree most times, or in the canopy of a shade tree. You want to make sure that they're not going to be competing with the tree roots. So you want to take into consideration that. You know, the other thing that you need to ask yourself, like this shot here, you know, that's a gorgeous shot of just a wonderful hosta bed. You know, so you can have beauty in the shade garden, but you have to do a little bit of pre-thinking. You know, these plants that you see there, they're a little bit in the backdrop. And, you know, the trees are far enough removed that the tree roots are not competing.
So, you know, sometimes I think when you think about plants in the sun, they're those bright, vibrant, beautiful plants. Can shade gardens be just as pretty?
Absolutely. I mean, look at this here. You've got texture, you've got difference of colors, difference of leaf patterns. You know, a shade garden can absolutely be a beautiful garden. You don't have to limit yourself to just thinking that, you know, to get the pop and the impact, you need to have it in full sun. You know, so many times the shady areas of our yard are the overlooked areas of our yard. You know, look at this shot here. This is gorgeous. This shows you some of the color, some of the contrast that you can achieve in a shade garden.
You know, the other things that I think that you probably ought to think about, too, when you talk about planning is really laying it out. Think about drainage, those types of things as well?
You have to think about the drainage because, you know, what you don't want to have is you don't want to have the plants. Shade plants, they have different growth requirements. So what you want to make sure is that you're planning out the site. Make sure that you're going to be planting in a place where it's going to retain moisture, but in the wintertime, it's not going to be boggy because many of your shade plants are perennials. You know, you mentioned the hosta, and you want to make sure that in the wintertime, even though there's no foliage on your hosta, the roots are still very much alive, and you want to make sure that there's proper drainage, even in the winter garden. So now's a good time to get out there, you know, in the middle of some of the snow and see if the site that you're thinking about is the right place for that shade garden.
Sounds good. And today and tomorrow may be good days to do that since the weather's supposed to cooperate.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good day.
Thanks, Derek.
All right.
Back over to you.